Stuck on you.
I want to change your mindset, the way of thinking. So typically, I've been in this HR, for the last 35 years. We've been always thinking we need to train, right? We need to do performance management. We need to implement competency mapping. We need to have career planning in place. We need to have succession planning. We need to have the compensation structure in design the right structure. Essentially, we need to look at, we are all not in the activity mode. We need to look at, hey, why does a business exist? Ultimately, every business exists to achieve certain business goals, right? You all agree, right? Every business achieves certain business goals. Now, we hire people. Now, what is that which predicts before you even hire that this person is going to perform better? You don't want to hire a person and then say, hey, this guy is not performing. Or you want to know whether your employees are performing best or they are giving superior performance. Against what? What is that which predicts superior performance? So ultimately, what is it? Why are competencies important? Because competencies are very important because they are the ones. I used a word called predict, right? Predict performance. Because if you are able to predict performance, you are able to achieve business goals, you are able to achieve performance, you are able to achieve the right person, you are able to put the right person in place, even whether it's career planning or succession planning. Are you with me, guys? Yes. So that's the key.
Yes.
So that why is everybody wanting to use competency framework? Because you can at least predict to a certain great extent what performance, right? If you have the right kind of competencies, all of you have said yes, it requires knowledge, it requires skills, it requires the right behavior. Yes, having said that, having mapped the competencies for the particular role, then you are able to predict performance. Okay. Yeah. So that was just to ignite your thoughts and start thinking in a different manner. All right. Okay. So let me give you an overview of what are we planning to do today. So the session has, there are 4 sessions in competency mapping. The session 1 will talk more all about today. We're going to talk about what is a competency, what's the framework. We were going to look at types of competencies, how can you use competency in your HR function, and we'll also look at this competency as an iceberg model, etc. In the session 2, we are going to actually do a lot of work in the area of how do we do entire competency mapping, wherein we are going to use some techniques called job element analysis to do identify and map the functional competencies, and we will do the Qualcomm and other techniques we would be using to have the behavioral competencies in place. And then in the third session, we're going to cover assessment centers. And in the fourth, we are going to do BEI, and that is the behavioral event interviewing and competency-based interviewing. So by the end of all these 4 sessions, you would be almost there. I wouldn't call expert, but yes, at a mastery level, covering all this. And if you are going to implement it, then you become an expert. Okay, guys, but that does not restrict you. You can always ask questions, and please participate. Please switch on your videos like the way you are doing it so that you are able to interact more. Huh? And that will also motivate me. Okay? That's fine, guys, with you? Okay. Yeah. This is some statistics. Why organizations use competencies? Because they found that by using competencies, they would actually increase their bottom line, uh, increase in the output, increase in the performance. And they did a lot of research, and they found that all organizations which use competency frameworks are able to hire the right kind of people, are able to actually ensure that they get the best out of their employees by having clear, clarified the kind of competencies required for every role so that they are able to deliver superior performance. Okay. Having said that, let us actually start with, it's a very good thought to understand this a little bit about the history of competencies. How did this competency movement start? Okay. And I'm sure all of you are aware that this was pioneered by the Harvard psychologist called David McClelland. In fact, he wrote a very good article after a lot of research, testing for competence rather than intelligence. Typically, 2 decades ago, or even now, some of the organizations do that. How do we test? We look at high IQ scores, premium colleges, or good amount of education, good amount of experience. Okay, or having a lot of what aptitude tests. But he, with his research, pioneered this competency theory, stating that if you want employees to perform and deliver superior performance, they need to have the right kind of competencies. In fact, he did a very interesting uh, um, research. Let me give you a very small example of his research. In USA, the American Foreign Service, what they do, they also recruit a lot of they were actually wanting to recruit counselors and send them to these underdeveloped countries like Africa. So typically, when you actually wanting to select counselors, how did they go by? They actually looked at the education qualification. So they selected mostly PhDs, all right? And these selected candidates who were all from USA were sent to these underdeveloped countries where they were counseling the local population. Now, to assist them, they also had some local people who were working along with them. Now, research showed that the local people were better counselors as in compared to people who had what? PhDs. The criteria for selecting counselors was what? Education. But actually, on the job, they found that the local people who did not have the necessary qualification like a PhD were found to be better counselors. Any idea why were they better counselors?
Why?
Yeah, Priyanka, you were saying something, or Justin says something?
Mhm.
Why do you think they were better counselors? The local people.
Because they
And
knew
I
the
said the role is a counselor. The role is a counselor.
because they knew the environment better, the people over there
They
better.
knew the environment better, everything. Yes, they had that keen competency called empathy.
Hmm.
I'm highly qualified. I will sympathize, but I did not have empathy. Put myself
Emotional.
into their shoes and counsel them. So when you counsel, you don't want to have sympathy. You want to, you want the counselor to show more of empathy. Now,
I
why were
think
they able to show empathy? Because as Davis said, they were aware of the local culture, local environment. They knew what the kind of problems were. They could actually step into them.
I think emotional intelligence.
Right? Absolutely. Emotional intelligence. So now, so can I say that David McLellan said, do not what? Test for intelligence, qualifications, but test for competency, because that alone can predict performance. Got it? Okay. And thereafter, then of course, David McClellan found this company called McBear, and competency movement, really, that was a turning point. It went, and now you know that in globally, every organization to certain extent use competency methodology, because they know that when you use competencies, it predicts performance. But now a lot of organizations, they think I can just copy competencies and do it. I'm a manufacturing organization, I will copy another competencies of another company. No, competencies are very, very contextual. By contextual, what do I mean? Yeah, what do I mean by contextual? Pardon?
Customized as per the requirement.
Customized, I can say to a certain extent you are customizing, but the app and the actual word is, in Davis's company, Reliance Reality, what he will actually map competencies will differ from what Justin will map, because every organization has its own culture, value system, own competency frameworks. Okay, so in the context, the environment, both external and the internal environment they operate in, and the kind of strategic advantages they have, so everything becomes very contextual. So a competency like, say, just problem solving, it could be the same word, but the definition will differ because it is contextual. And if you not define the right way, the impact and the depth will vary and the outcomes will vary. Are you with me? A lot of people will just cut, copy, paste, but no, because the impact will depend on the way you have defined and the depth of the definition for that particular competency. Is it very clear, guys? Okay. Just to give you that, how powerful this competency frameworks are. So before we get into the details of competency framework, etc., let us actually quickly understand just the word competency. Anybody? I know a lot of you have typically given me a definite, already saying, hey, competency means it is knowledge. Somebody said skill. Somebody said, anyone else? What is a competency? Don't look at that definition or something, but just let me know what is the competency. Because I want you all to really understand. Only
to
the
do a
task.
particular job. The exact traits which is required to do a particular job, which may be a
Okay.
combination of plethora of things and all, but
Okay. So, yeah. So when I say competency could be a knowledge, right? Is it a knowledge? Yes, it is a knowledge competence.
Yes.
It could be a skill,
yes.
right? It could be a motive. It could be a trait. Is competency job descriptions? Yes, no.
Oh,
Job descriptions, they
Yeah, but
help us to-
competencies are not job descriptions.
Yeah, they are not
Okay? Competencies are not job descriptions. Competencies are not just skill.
you use a competency to do a job.
Yes, yes. So I was wanting to make this very, very clear that when we look at competencies are not job descriptions. Are competencies tasks? What we do? Are competencies tasks? No.
No.
No,
But when you do tasks, you might need certain competencies
competencies
to
to
do
do
those
those tasks. Yes.
tasks. Right? Okay. So before we delve into this competency theory, I want you to understand According to Spencer and Spencer, and I would love all of you to read this book, The Competent Manager by Spencer and Spencer, a beautiful book. He describes competency as an underlying characteristics, okay, of an individual. And what is underlying characteristic? That means it is deep within. Now you should carefully understand that are causally related. That means these are the causation. That means it causes. If you have the competency, it causes. Like I asked you, why competencies are important? Now I'm coming to that. A, it predicts. So that means it causes. If you have say team working is required for this, because we all work and we are coding and it's a team management work. Team working is important. So if I have this team working, it causes the outcome. So causes related, causally related, and criteria referenced. What is criteria referenced? That means it can actually statistically prove that yes, if this competency is at this level 2, he will be able to perform this much. If this competency is at level 3, he'll be able to perform this.
Are you saying it can
That's
be
called
measured?
criteria, right? Say, for example, when I say criteria reference, simple so that you are able to understand. Supposing Subir has got what? 85% marks in maths, okay? But the cutoff is 70%. So he has met the criteria, right? Because what did I say? The cutoff is 70% and Subir has got 85% in maths. This is called criteria reference. But there is one more thing I just want to tell you. There is something called norm reference. What is norm reference? Saying that there are 10 people here in this class now. Okay, I've given an IQ test. And Justin has got 75%. The class average was 70%. So Justin is above the class average. But that was not the criteria reference. He is just above the. So sometimes, you take a average of all the participants and say, hey, this is the average score and this is the score. Got it? So that's called norm. But we are now looking at a criteria reference. That means if you have the competency, it can also satisfy a criteria. You can actually clearly then set a criteria, which will result in superior or effective performance. And this competency definition is so powerful that now he has given an iceberg model. Let us look at, when we talk about competency, we typically relate it to a iceberg model. That's very important for us. What is an iceberg? Iceberg is a big solid ice which floats in water, which 9 parts are inside and only 1 part. The tip of the iceberg can be seen, right? That is typically the way it is. Now, why are we actually referring to competency as an iceberg model? Because it says that, first of all, when you define competencies, you have skill, you have knowledge. Okay. Now, if you notice that maybe this is better, you can see this better. Yeah. If you notice, you can see that the skill and knowledge are what? Above the water. Above the water level. And what is below the water level? The self-image, the traits, the motives. So when we talk about competency definition, now competency is just not knowledge, just not skill. It is made up of all this knowledge, skill, self-image, traits, and motives. Okay. Now, you may say, hey, when we hire a person, say, for example, I'm hiring a person in my payroll. What are some of the key knowledge and skills you will look at? A payroll person, maybe payroll payroll associate, senior payroll associate. What are some of the things you will look at?
So
Anybody?
basically, it
Yeah.
would be like one, the compliance of the place the company is operating from.
Knowledge of all the statutory
Compliance.
compliances, right? Because he has to actually have a knowledge, and when he does payroll, he will need to actually comply with it by deducting in the salary, maybe the gratuity, the PF, the other, right? Okay, then
ETPF and all.
Attention to details.
pardon? Yeah, somebody else, yes. Yeah, Meghana or someone else was.
Attention to details.
Now
Hello.
you're coming to this. Yes. So
Analytical skills.
typically what happens when I'm recruiting, I will only recruit. All right, he has great knowledge. He has great skill to operate the computer spreadsheet. He's able to do everything. But when you hire him just based on knowledge and skill and not looking at the other things which are deep down below the water, you will find that, hey, this guy does not have attention to detail, because every month end, when I'm having a help desk for a payroll, pay help desk, there are so many mistakes. There are so many grievances, right?
Mm.
So what is required for a payroll guy? Attention to detail is very, very important. Now, where will you put that attention to detail? It is deep down. It is a trait which comes over a period of time, right? And how will I test this attention to detail? Just by asking question. Hey, how can you, are you familiar with spreadsheet? Are you very good at this? Are you very good at, taking care of details? So I use the same yardstick, same question to test for knowledge, to test for skill, and also to test for something which is deep within, which can't be, it's deep within and like a tree. Are you with me? Do we do that?
Mm.
Justin, can you think of, in organizations, how do we recruit? We recruit mostly by saying, hey, he has the knowledge, he has the skill, so he's a fit candidate for this position. But are we giving actually attention to those details in terms of what are the traits required? What is the motive? Like, for example, as a CHRO, I have noticed that sometimes what happens there is, you recruit people, especially in a BPO, and in 2 to 3 months, you have high attrition. Good people, high performing people, and you have attrition. Do you know some of the reasons for attrition? Anybody who's worked in it? There's a huge churn. What are the discerning factors? Their motives, their intent. They just want to park themselves for 2 months or 3 months because they want to actually look for better opportunities, or maybe go for a higher education, or maybe, get settled in another city. So what happens? So when you're recruiting, it's very important to look at, hey, what is the intent? Why do you think motive or the intent is very important to check for when I'm doing talent acquisition?
Mhm.
That drives the behaviors.
Pardon?
That drives the behaviors that they exhibit on
Absolutely.
job.
The motives are the drives which will drive your behavior. What is action? Action into outcome. Say, for example, I have an open door policy, and say all senior managers and managers, they are always keeping their doors open so that people can come give feedback or tell their grievances, etc. But there's another certain manager who keeps his room always open. Always open. Do you think that the person is actually keeping the door open because he wants to get feedback and grievances, or he wants fresh air? So, motive or intent is important. Are you with me? Motive is important because the kind of
Yes.
action is dependent on motive. I'll give you another example. In a manufacturing organization, on the shop floor, there is a manager who is just walking. Now, you may say He's walking. That is his behavior. You may say, hey, this manager, he's actually supervising people by walking. But his intent may be because he's been sitting for a long time, he has cramps and he wants to straighten up his legs. So, how will you decipher, predict the behavior? Only when you get to know the motive or the aim. Are you with me? Yeah. So,
Yes,
why is so in competency, so these things which are very deep below the water, and unless and until I actually assess and test for these, I cannot have the right fit in the organization. So whenever you are hiring via, when we are talking about a competency, the knowledge and the skill are easily, knowledge you can get if you can bridge the gap in terms of knowledge. Because if a person is at level 2 and level 3 is required, you can always fill him with, give him input in terms of knowledge or skill. You can always train him, bring him up to the mark. But what is easily not trainable? What is easily not trainable? Are the
Attitude.
concept, attitudes, the traits and motives. These can't be trained. They take a long time. Not that they can't be trained, but does the organization have the time to train them for such a long time? For example, eye for detail, or for example, what is it? Listening. Listening, let me tell you guys, is a trait. I mean, it doesn't, it is also a skill, but it comes with, so you will see a lot of people don't listen. The moment, you talk, they're always, so listening, and especially if like, for example, you are a business partner, HR business partner, who's interfacing with business, you really need to have listening competency, because you need to listen to your business people, your employees, understand them, be a mentor, coach, etc. Okay. So when you are doing competency framework, you are actually mapping the functional competencies, which we are going to talk about. Then we are also going to talk about the behavioral competencies. And that is why this is the key for achieving superior performance. Any clarifications here in terms of the components of a competency, where we are looking at knowledge? What is knowledge? Knowledge is something, it's an information you, like, say, for example, for an HR person who is working as a compensation manager, what kind of a knowledge do you think he will require? Anybody in the compensation area? Okay, we'll take another very familiar. HR business partner. You all understand HR business partner role? Who interfaces
Employee
with the
relations.
yeah. So that, I mean, understanding the business more, because this person is actually working with the business, working with the employees who are actually, performing, producing. So what kind of a knowledge do you think will be required?
business acumen.
Yeah, I mean, this person should definitely understand what is the business about, right? How is the business? What are the processes involved? So the knowledge, he definitely should acquire all the knowledge of that particular business in order to be a good HR business partner. What kind of skills will this HR business partner need?
Employee relations.
Absolutely. You're spot on, huh? Employee relations. Absolutely. So what kind of a self-concept should you be having? This is very, very important. How do you see yourself, right?
You should be able to build a credibility.
Yeah. How do you see? So if you don't see yourself worthy, if you don't see yourself with a positive person, you are only looking at, a negative kind of person, you can't build credibility. You can't be perceptive. You can't be responsive. So it's very important. What is the kind of self-concept you have about yourself, right? What kind of a traits do you think this person will need to have? An HR business partner.
Empathy.
Empathy. You are absolutely right. One of the key competencies, empathy. Then very perceptive, no? Responsive as well.
Should not be
Motives.
judgmental. Should not be judgmental.
Yeah.
Be a good listener.
Absolutely. Motives. What kind of a motives? Intent.
I think you should be seen as a positive guy, someone who can always reach out to and probably gives a lot of
Yeah.
positive.
So you said positive. I'll give a better refined word. Need for affiliation. People centric.
Yeah.
High on affiliation.
Very good with interpersonal skills.
So if you are high on people, need for affiliation, then you are really very good at people relationship. That does not mean that you are not task oriented, right? Excellent, guys. You're all there, understanding everything spot on. Okay. All right. Now, the next important thing I talked about when I was defining competency, that it has a causal relationship. So what is that causation? I talked about it. Intent. If you have the right trait, that is the personal characteristics of right motives, right traits, right self-esteem, it can be translated into the right behavior. And the right behavior will give you the right outcome of effective performance. Let me give you an example. For example, I'm going to help you with how there is a causation or a causal, relationship between people with high achievement motivation with their, work. So people, say for example, you have a motive, of high achievement. You want to achieve a lot, a need for high achievement. So what will you do typically? Action will be, you want to set your goals. You want to achieve. So therefore, what will you achieve? You will plan. You'll say, hey, these are, even if your boss is not going to set your goals, you'll go and ask him, please tell me what am I supposed to be achieving? Tell me what are my goals, and not just be quiet and say till the boss comes to you and say goal setting. So you will take the personal responsibility of what? Understanding the goals, what of the goals, how do I need to do them, keep getting constantly feedback. Then you will take calculated risks, which will translate into what? Good performance, because you're going to continuously improve yourself. Your productivity will improve, your sales, earnings. So there is the presence of a particular competency will translate into superior performance. This is what I'm trying to get across. Very clear, guys? Okay. All right. We'll move on. Typically, a competency map looks like this. I will show you. This is just a skeleton saying that, hey, it will have certain levels, okay, which are called maybe unsuitable, threshold, mastery. And then these are the levels. And then if you will have a competency, you will define the competency. And then you will have proficiency levels, which are called behavioral indicators, bars. I'm sure everybody has heard of it. BARS, behaviorally anchored rating scales. You will be taught for every competency, how will you define the competency? Then how will you do the bars? I mean, how will you establish levels of proficiency? And how will you then write descriptors? Okay. So please not to worry. This is just to give you a little feeling. As I said, competencies. As the job becomes complex, okay, at the lowest level, the focus is more on tasks, knowledge, skill, right? Say, for example, I will take everybody is very familiar with a simple example like a call center executive, right? A call center executive. Associate. What will his role be? At that initial level, lowest level in an organization. Typically, what will his role be? What will his job be?
To complete the targeted callings for that particular day.
He has to take calls, right? So he has to take certain calls within certain time. He should not drop calls. Then he should ensure that he is able to respond to them. So he should have certain knowledge of that business. If it is what is inbound calls or outbound calls accordingly, right? And at best, some coordination and teamwork. But as the role increases in level, the complexity of the job increases, the focus is more on the behavioral competencies. Are you with me? The focus is more on behavioral competencies. For example, if I were to hire a CHR, so I have mapped the competencies. Will I keep interviewing more on the knowledge and skill part? What will be the focus be more on?
The leadership skills.
Huh?
On the leadership skills.
Even if he does not know how to do competency framework, that doesn't really matter to me. You agree? Even if he does not know payroll, it doesn't matter to me. What's very, very important is the business acumen, right? Huh? And strategic
So, and can he manage
understanding.
complexities?
How is he able to understand business? Will he be able to partner with various stakeholders? Will he ensure how does he plan the strategy part? So I want to understand his aspirations. I want to understand his drives so that will he lead my business and ensure that the human capital we are bringing in will actually deliver to the best of the performance. Leadership. So I'm actually focusing more on the behavioral competencies as opposed to just low level functional competencies of saying, hey, do you know competency mapping or do you know payroll or do you know how to do this, right? That can be built in. Got it? Okay. So, so competencies when we are looking at, so as we keep going at a higher level, the behavioral competencies come into play. Now, we talked about what is a competency. We talked about the various components of competency. Now, there are two categories of competencies. One is threshold competency and differentiating competency. I need to understand threshold competency and differentiating competency. Now, what are they? Anybody who's heard of these two words? Threshold competency and differentiating competency. Yeah. This is just to check whether you all are awake or not.
Is differentiating also technical competencies that you're referring to?
Anything.
Well, jobs.
So when I say
job
threshold and
specific.
differentiating, yeah. So when I'm doing a competency mapping, I will say, hey, the competencies which are required just to do a job at an average level of performance. Okay. So sometimes what happens, I might hire people at an average level because, I don't want the top end people there because I have to pay more. I might take for certain jobs, which is very routinistic and all, just average people. Differentiating is those competencies will ensure that they are what? Displaying superior performance. So that's where is the difference when we are talking about high performers. So when you are doing a competency mapping, you want to understand your top high performers. Hey, what differentiates these people from the average performer in the same role? Are you with me? If there are two people, Priyanka and Justin, Priyanka is a high performer in the same role, HR manager. Hey, what differentiates Priyanka from Justin? I'm so sorry, Justin. Saying that why?
I'm
It
okay.
hits you then.
I'm okay
You're
performer.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So why? Differentiating. That's where it is, those key competencies which make. And most of the organization definitely want to know what are those key competencies which will differentiate so that you are going to achieve superior performance. Got it, guys? Okay. This is, important. You should know what is a threshold competency. Now, Having said that, now now we are now beginning to get into the organization. So when we are talking about competency, there are two kinds of competencies. One is personal competencies. That is, what does Subir have? What are his competencies? Okay. He may be, he may be a great problem solver. Okay. He may be very creative. He has certain knowledge of a lot of things, etc. That is personal competence. Okay. But here in this session, what are we going to do is we are going to look at what are those knowledge, skills, attitudes, behaviors, etc., which are important to ensure that you have superior performance. So we are looking at a job-related competencies. Are you with me? What are we looking at? We are looking at job-related competencies. Say, for example, there is an HR manager. Hey, what are the key competencies required for this HR manager in order for him to perform effectively or in order to translate that into a superior performance? Got it? So we are looking at job-related competencies. Got it, guys? So when we are looking at job-related competencies, yes, that means we are looking at across the organization. We are looking at what are the competencies required across the organization. Whenever you're doing a competency framework, you also have to look at your organization's life cycle. Are you at what? The startup stage, because it will have it will call for different roles and different kind of competencies. Are you at what? A growth stage? Or are you at a maturity level? Or are you at a decline level? Because all your strategies, just like even in compensation, when you're designing structures, you will look at the organization life cycle, just as the way here also, we need to look at your organization at what life cycle is it? Okay, is it? And I'm assuming most of you must be at a growth level or at a maturity level, right? I'm just assuming. Okay. Now, having said that, this is a very common question. Is there a difference between competency and competence? Is there a difference between competency and competence?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Surely. Competence is more to do with whether he has the right skills, attitude, or the knowledge to do that particular job. And competency are the defining factors that is required to do that job.
I want you to, though it is interchangeable, but not exactly, because there is a difference. As you rightly stated, when you look at competence, he has a competence. So typically we look at it as, a noun, that there's a capability. But when we look at competency, it's a person related. It's a role related, because it has various behavioral factors as well. Okay, so you should be very clear about competency and competence. Any questions thus far, guys? Vilma has given you ample reading material. I'm trying to connect the dots so that you are able to go back and then relate to whatever I have mentioned, right? And make it much easier for you. All right. So any questions thus far, please feel free. Now we are getting into the architecture. So first of all, it's like a house. You have 4 competencies. Okay. Core competencies. I'm sure all of you have heard of core competencies, right? In fact, all of you should read this article by what? Prahalad. He is the one who's actually given core competencies. What are core competencies? Core competencies are those competencies which run cutting across all levels, run through the entire organization. For example, all of you, I'm sure, heard of Walmart? Yeah. I'm sure everybody's heard of Walmart, right? Huh?
Yes.
In
Yes.
USA, I see that everywhere you have Walmart. Huh? What do
For
you
better or
think?
worse.
Right? What do you think is their core competency? One of the core competencies is
Operational
Customer
efficiency.
focus.
Operational excellence.
Operational
Yeah.
excellence, yeah. Efficiency.
I'm sorry. Operation.
Excellence.
Operational excellence.
Excellence. Okay. Okay. Then I'll connect the dots. Google.
Google innovation, product.
Absolutely. Now, or say, for example, again, Toyota also is known for reliability and operational excellence. Okay. Starbucks. Everybody, I'm sure all of you have coffee at Starbucks, right? Do you?
Yeah. Customer
Huh?
service.
Yes.
Customer service.
Dot on. Can I say customer service or can I say customer delight?
Light.
I was gonna say focus. Yeah.
What you want? They will keep telling you every combination and they'll tell you this will taste like this will taste like. They will, enrich you. They will give you a lot of insights into which flavor, etc. Right? Now, these are just to give you an example, core competencies. Like, for example, even if you go to what McDonald's. Now, what are core competencies and how are they derived? They are derived based on your own business strategy. They
Mhm.
can't be in the air. Okay, fine, I will have creativity. I will have innovation. No. Based on, so there is a linkage, there is a connection of dots. You want to have this because your business strategy. Now, what is the business strategy of Google? It's product
Leaders, yeah.
product leadership. Keep on innovating milestones with features. So is Apple, right? Huh? So now
Yeah.
how can you have product leadership, adding new features all the time, huh? And making new products with slight modifications as per the customer's need, unless and until you have your workforce across organization with creativity and innovation as a competency. Are you with me, guys? Are you with me?
The
That's
Yeah.
your
thing,
major.
yeah.
It could
So
be in levels of proficiency, it could differ, but everybody should have it because that is my core competency. That's how I will achieve my business goals. For example, Starbucks, customer delight. They are in what? They are in a business strategy, which is actually customer delight. That means both in terms of product and also customers. They want to delight the customers. So how do they do? In fact, if you go ask them, their frontline people get trained in how to talk to customers, how to give information. They have solid books. So you should go and talk to them once sometimes, and so they are trained very well. Now, as opposed to Starbucks, where you can go spend time. Now go to McDonald's. What is it? Operational excellence again.
Yeah.
You just have to tell the order and in no time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So what is it? Productivity, because they have standard operating procedures. So everything, operational excellence means. So how does Walmart? So what do? They have what? Supply chain is their biggest. So they pass on the advantage they get from the supply chain to the customers, ensuring good quality at less cost. Are you with me, guys? So I think that is so based on, so there are three kinds of business strategies. One is operational excellence, the other is customer delight, and the third is product leadership. So organization to achieve their goals and to get competitive advantage, okay, and that strategic differentiation. So you can't be good at all the three. You can be good at two, but that does not mean that you can be zero at the other. You have to be above the average, but you can't have operational excellence as well and product leadership as well. Why? Because both of them are very different strategies. Now, if you want product leadership, you want people to innovate, you can't get people at low cost. You have to pay what? You can't pay, what is it? Peanuts. You have to pay. So if you notice all the product leadership companies, the wage cost is very high. Their budgets of wage cost is very high. Why? Because they have to hire the best of people to get good people for their to innovate products. Whereas in operational excellence, they have to keep their wage cost. What I call it as typically, I'm sure all of you, some of you have done my compensation. What is that? Can you tell me? Employee to cost. ECR ratio.
Yeah,
Right?
right, right.
Huh? I talked
Yeah.
about ECR ratio, right? ECR. Huh? What is that ECR ratio? Employee to cost revenue. In the sense, you have to actually take your revenue divided by the employees and you will get a ECR ratio, which has to be substantially low. And you have to also benchmark with other operational excellence organizations. Because if you want to actually make profits, you want to have, cost, your products are good quality and cost effective. So you need to definitely reduce your wage cost. You can't pay very high salaries. You can only pay maybe at best 2 to 3% of your very strategic positions. Like for example, in Walmart, I would pay the best of salary to which position? Quick, quick, quick. Who is the key person in Walmart where I will get a competitive advantage?
Supply chain professionals?
You are spot on. Procurement guy, the supply chain guy, right? He is the one who's going to make a difference, right? By negotiation, etc. Because that's where is your key thing. No,
Yeah.
I think people are becoming now smarter. Good. Okay. Now I think we talked a lot about core competencies. Now, so next is every organization will have job families. I call them as job families or functions. Okay, I'm sorry. Job families or functions. Job functions. Like for example, your HR can be a function. Then your finance function. So when you talk about job families or functions, the competencies will be slightly narrow. The knowledge and skill are specific to the functions. They are not what? Common across the organization. Are they common across the organization? No. They're specific to the function. Got it? Like, for example, if I say product management, so they will be specific, they're narrow. They'll have their own knowledge, skills, at best, maybe to certain extent behavior, but still contextual. Then you get every job, family, or a function will have rules. So we have role specific, manager HR, CHRO, right? Role specific competencies. Then you have what? Leadership competencies for all your top levels, maybe middle management, top level, top management. So you'll have leadership competencies, which are broad, cutting across the job families or functions. You will have leaders from maybe HR, leaders from finance, you'll have leadership competencies, right? For succession planning, etc. Is that clear, guys? Clear? So when you're looking at competencies, think of, a house. Okay. So when we looked at the bottom, the base of the house will have core competencies, which are also based on your vision, values, right? Every organization has a vision. Every organization has a value. I'm not asking your values, but you should know if you're working in your organization, you definitely should know what is the vision, what is your value of the values in your organization. Okay, very important, right? So these also form the core competencies. Then I talked about what the leadership competencies, which are broad, which are for the senior people, which cut across functions, and you have leadership, strategic acumen, business acumen, etc., etc. Okay. Then in the house, you will have various functions. You'll have a maintenance, you'll have marketing, you'll have HR, job families or job functions are the same. You'll have job specific competencies. And in that you'll have again what? Roles. There will be roles in every job function, right? You'll have role specific competencies. Okay. Any questions here? So I've written here core competencies, right? Any organization, say for example, a consulting company, it will have a core competency like client focus, right? Very important. No? Okay. And so somebody else, there will be high focus on customer orientation. So they will ensure that they will do customer orientation, cutting across all levels. So based on your vision, your value, and based on your business strategy, you will have your core competencies, because you want to actually take strategic advantage. You want to have competitive advantage, and you want to be a differentiator. Now I talked about job family competencies. Okay. Like for example, project management, partnering, etc., etc. Then we talked about technical or professional competencies. Okay. In various functions. Then you have leadership competencies. All right. Having said that, now typically, we will actually work with your own. So you will be doing this in detail, how to map. But I'm just trying to give you an example. Say, for example, you have a project assistant and a project manager. The project assistant is reporting into project manager, and this competency framework belongs to project function. Okay. Okay. Now, so every role should have what? A, core competencies, right? Then B, job family or job function competencies. C, role specific competencies. For example, project manager, his core competency should be at what? Achievement orientation is a core competency at a proficiency level of 3. Adaptability at a higher level of, that is level 4. But here you will see that, which I said, core competency cuts across the organization. So the core competencies are achievement orientation, adaptability, and client focus. So now these 3 are the competencies, but you will see that the proficiency level is different. He is only level 1, but this is level 3. This is level 2, but this is level 4. And this is level 1, this is level 4. What does it mean? The bars, that is the behavioral indicators, which will decide how he should behave, are much higher. Got it? Okay. Again, for job family, analytical thinking, communication, and project planning, you will see that they are at a much lower level as in compared to a project manager, which are at a higher level. Okay. Again, if you see the Specific competencies for that role are quality focus and teamwork, which are at level 2. And this project manager, he has project risk management and resource management, which are specific to this role. So therefore, you are not finding that they are the same. They are different, but different proficiency levels. This is just to show you how does a competency framework look like. Okay, just to give you, but you would be doing everything in detail. Have any questions, guys, or am I going very fast? Because you are so tenured, I thought you already had good understanding, so I'm going a little fast. Yeah.
Still, we need if you go a little bit slow.
Yes, Bhav. You want me to go slow? Okay, Bhavna. No issues. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Thanks.
And no worries.
We
But
are defining the
please,
framework.
I can take up any questions now. I'm parking myself. Any questions thus far?
So
or
when we
anything
would
you-
define the framework, we would also go down to defining these levels, right?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
We will give you certain roles and we will go from job description and then we'll say, how do you actually do job analysis and how do you do a JD and that too quickly, okay? And then from job description, how are you going to actually map competencies, which are called through an exercise called job element analysis, trying to get the functional competencies. Then we will use off the shelf, behavioral competencies, what is it, product, off the shelf product, which is called a Qualcomm. And we will use those competencies and then map them to the role. So you will do entire thing. Okay. The proficiency levels. That's very important. And that's something which you all will be doing. All right, guys. Maybe to some extent today you will be doing it. Okay. Any questions? None?
Just a question. In fact, a
Sure,
clarity.
sure.
These levels, ma'am, are the threshold that is required for each of these roles, right?
Whenever we are doing levels, so levels are essentially, I will show you, levels are essentially what proficiency levels, saying that if I have, say, for example, just a competency like a problem solving. Okay. Now I will then define the levels. Do I need 4 levels or 5 levels? Depending on when I do this exercise, talking to my high performers. Then I will say, so I will also say, hey, this is the threshold. Maybe L1 or L2 is the threshold. That means I can take a guy at a threshold level, but then I need to train him up because he's coming at a lesser cost.
Okay.
That's the advantage at a threshold level. That's all. Like, for example, why do you take a threshold level? Because there is you need to understand there is an interplay between the competencies and also the compensation you pay to a guy. You want the best of guy, but there is in a compensation, you have salary ranges. Say, for example, I'm taking Bhavna as an HR manager at level 2, which has a salary range, min and a max. Now I want to take somebody only at a threshold. Why? I want to pay at that and see that, yes, she has a learnability, etc. So that's the entire idea of, having a threshold competency as well. All right. Okay. Is that clear, Anita?
Yes.
Are you? Okay, fine. Yeah. So before you actually do this exercise, which Vilma has put it in your chat box, and also she has mailed it to you all for your convenience. Have you downloaded it? You have it? This is an individual exercise, not a group exercise. Okay? I'll tell you what. Now, and before you start the exercise, I just wanted to, because we broke, competencies are observable and measurable. They are not just quality statements. The importance of competency that they can predict is because they are observable and measurable. So whenever you say, hey, he's got that competency, then I have to check. Have you observed? Is there a behavior which you have observed? And can it be measured? Measured against what we were talking about, proficiency levels. Okay? Yeah. Now, what is this exercise all about? We learned a lot about skill, behavior, values, etc. Now here is a list of attributes. Now you need to just make your tick or a right mark. For example, appraisal. Is it a value? Is it a skill? Is it a behavior? Body language. Is it a value? Is it a skill? Or is it a behavior? Now, for your understanding, because sometimes you begin to understand, hey, how do I know it is a behavior? It looks the same. Behavior has to be observed. Okay? So, the best way to check, like for example, body language, it's a behavior. So, yeah. So can you make, it's an individual. So how much time? 5 minutes or 10 minutes? A group consensus, how much time you all want? Haha, see, Justin says 5 minutes. Okay, guys.
Ma'am, can you please guide once again what we are supposed to do?
Yeah. Can you see that you have got an Excel sheet with a list of attributes? Right?
Yes.
Maybe 1 to 50 or how many are there? 1 to 38. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
you will also see that you have to identify whether this attribute is a value or a skill or a behavior. Got it?
Okay, okay.
So you just have to tick on that. And if you think it is both like a skill and a behavior, you can do that also.
Okay.
What does data facility mean?
Data facility, in the sense that, you know, a person who is very, very adept, I don't want to speak out, but yeah, it's a kind of a skill, data facility.
Okay.
Technical skill.
Gotcha. Data analysis.
Okay.
Data,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a technical skill. Yes. Okay. Let's look at the score now. All right. 1 second. Okay. Appraisal. How many did not get it as a skill? Okay. Body language. How many did not get it as a behavior? Coaching. It's a skill. If you have not got it, then we can just discuss as to why. Okay.
Make the screen large.
Sorry. Now, okay. Coaching. It's skill. Anybody who has not got it can just raise. Commitment. It's a value.
value.
Yeah, somebody saying confidentiality is a value again.
Value, correct.
Okay. Counseling is a skill. Courtesy is a value. Some organizations have that as their value. Customer care is skill. Customer care. So skill. Data facility is a behavior. Sorry, it's a behavior. So data analytics is a skill, but data facility is a behavior. Decisiveness, again a behavior. Detail handling, driving for quality. All these are skills, behaviors. Then environmental awareness, value. Equal opportunities, value. Honesty, value. Influencing, skill. Initiating action, behavior. Integrity, value. Judgment, skill. Manage meetings, skill. Mentoring, skill. Monitoring, it's a behavior. Negotiating is a skill. Performance review is a skill. Persuasiveness is a behavior. Planning, it could be a skill and it also can be a behavior. Presentation skills, skill. Problem solving, skill. Then quality consciousness. It's a value. Reliability is a value. Sensitivity is a skill. Strategic planning is a skill. Stress tolerance is a behavior. Team working, again, it's a behavior. And time management is a skill. Anybody who's got differently, you can always ask me why is it that you have put it as a behavior or a skill or something else, and or you can also connect on a WhatsApp. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, why appraisal is a value? Why it's not a skill?
Which one?
Appraisal. Why it's a
Appraisal.
skill?
Appraisal. Yeah.
Yes. It's a
Here,
value.
appraisal, doing appraisals is taken as a skill.
You learn it over a year, over the period of time, right?
Yeah, you are taking it as a now appraisals. Okay, appraisal.
Okay. Because you're learning it in a period of time, that's why.
Yeah, yeah.
I would request a clarity, please. How could
There is
sensitivity,
some background. If somebody can mute it, there is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
okay, can I go on, please?
Yes, Anita.
All right. I was trying to understand how is sensitivity a skill and not a behavior?
As I told you, sensitivity. Being sensitive can be a behavior. Sensitivity is a skill.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. All right. So let us look at, now we talked about what is a competency, types of competencies. We actually started off with, looking at job-based competencies, because there are two types of competencies, personal and job. So we are essentially looking at all job-based competencies. Then we looked at from the organization perspective, core competencies. We looked at job function or family competencies. Then we looked at jobs, role-specific competencies and leadership competencies. Okay. We also looked at threshold competencies and differentiating competencies. Right? Okay. Having said that, now, how do you use this competency framework when you go back? Typically, can we use it for all our functions?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
We can.
Yeah. You can use it for all our functions. Say, for example, can I use it for my, I will just put it, recruitment?
Yes.
Essentially talent acquisition, right? Somebody said talent acquisition, right? Huh? Hey, let me tell you one thing. When we use competency framework, it becomes my nucleus, or it gives you a common what?
Language.
Understanding. Right? Common understanding and common standard as well, because what you use for recruitment for a particular position, you can't vary for performance management, a different competencies. For career planning, you can't use different set of competencies. So what does it mean? That means you are using competency framework as a nucleus and using it for all HR functions, be it recruitment, be it performance management, be it compensation, be it career planning, be it L&D, be it succession planning. So for the entire HR, you can use competencies. For example, when you do recruitment, how can you use competency framework? So that means when you have analyzed, done the job descriptions, and when you have actually defined competencies for a particular role, say an HR manager or a project manager, you are going to hire candidates, creating that as your criteria, as opposed to every interviewer will have his own set of criteria. He will go by his own gut feeling. He will go by his own prejudices, unconscious biases, whether it is gender, whether it is college, whether it is my college, whether it's from a premium, you'll have a set of criteria. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
That means a common understanding for all your interviewers, hiring managers. It will avoid what? Gut feeling. It will avoid biases. It will avoid unconscious biases. You may say, I don't have. But I will say, hey, well, this position, essentially, I will look at only, male. Why should I look? You have stereotypes, right? I may not be aware of it. Unconscious biases. Okay. So are you convinced that when you're doing a recruitment, if you have a competency framework, then you can actually have a unbiased and impartial criteria wherein you will ensure that the candidates you're going to hire are actually on a common criteria. Got it? Okay. Now, next, let me performance management. How will you use performance? Performance management. What is the benefit and how are you going to use? What happens? I have to look at this process, no? Typically in a performance management, what happens?
So the biasness is moved out because you don't have managers' prejudices coming in. You have a set of norms on which you assess the person. It becomes much objective.
Okay.
based.
Okay. Anyone else? No. So when you are looking at a performance management through a competency framework, I am not only setting goals, which are actually called what? Can I say what is actually the goal setting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay. But I'm also looking at
How?
the what and the how of it. I'm not just looking at if a sales representative target is 100 units. I will tell him what is it and how has it done. Say, for example, I have a sales manager. What is the role of a sales manager? What is the role of a sales manager?
Achieve the sales target.
He will have a target,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? That is his
Manage
motto.
sales.
Okay. But he will also have, say, 10 salespeople working under him. Different
Manage
Sales
sales staff.
sales reps. Can I call sales representatives? Okay. Now there are two sales managers. One sales manager who's called A, he has 200 units of target. And what has he done? He has actually done planning. He has done various meetings with the salespeople, sales reps and salespeople. Then he has divided the targets and helped them, coach them, and ensure that his salespeople, sales reps have actually achieved the targets. Okay. The other guy, B, sales manager, what did he do? He was a very good sales rep. He was promoted to a sales manager. He just calls one or two people whom he is friendly with. He tells them, hey, you have to do this. No meeting. Nobody knows the big picture, how much he has to do, etc., etc. But somehow he has achieved the targets. Who is the better performer?
First one.
A. Why? Because a sales manager's role is to plan, right? To mentor, coach, and delegate and get work done. Not that you yourself do it. Then what is the difference between a sales manager and a sales rep if you're trying to do everything on your own? So will you find people who are promoted and will still start doing things by themselves? No delegation, no training, no coaching, no mentoring, no? They'll say instead of teaching them, I can do it myself. Right? So when I'm talking about performance management, how does competency framework help? It not only tells you the what of it, which is the hard goals, but how have you achieved them? That is, how means it is the means. Means also matter. Right? Very clear, guys? Okay? All right. What about compensation? Let me tell you, when you're designing structures, compensation, so you're also paying additional competencies, you get additional increments, right? So, what is it? Pay by competencies. In fact, these days, most of the organizations are following that multi-skilling and giving skill-based pay, additional skills, etc. If you go to IT companies, if you actually acquire new skills, new technologies, you are being paid more. Okay? Now, career planning. We are coming to that Davis question. But we'll do it in detail later. Career planning. What is career planning? That means if a person has joined as an accountant, I can create a career path for him to become a manager in 3 years or 5 years. What are the various competencies he has to acquire? What are the in terms of education, some certifications, etc. That's linear planning. Also, the advantage of competencies is that, yes, these are my competencies, but I also am a high performer. So I am also opting for certain positions, which could be lateral positions, which have certain common competencies, and the other functional competencies of knowledge and skill I can always acquire. Right? You can always be trained. In fact, interesting thing, when you have a competency, you have something called development centers. What are development centers? You actually assess, you want to promote people, or you want to actually, promote people from lower level to higher level. So you will actually assess their competencies and see the gaps and then give them training based on those gaps. In today's times, you know that time is of essence, and the market keeps changing so fast that you really have to have new competencies in place. So therefore, you have to constantly keep learning, and the learning and development, the talent development has become so critical that you can't just train in anything. So you want to train people in the required competencies so that there is more focus and the organization is able to achieve its goals by how? By there is human capital readiness. Got it? What is human capital readiness? When I'm talking about human capital readiness, anybody who's heard of this? Some of you have heard. Yeah.
The person, I mean, somebody who has some certain skill set, an additional skill set, and is ready for the next level, we can say, for the next role.
No.
So
So when
that
you go back, you can do this. So every organization under various job families, you will have certain number of roles, and what are those competencies required for the roles? Got it? Step
do
one.
you
Okay. For every function, there will be roles, and you will be having certain competencies required for those roles. Now, what you will actually do, hey, in my workforce, do I have at present, the required number of people with those required competencies? That's called human capital readiness. And if it is not, that you do an audit and you will find out. And if there is a gap, then you will train them so that you are creating a talent pipeline. Because at any point of time, you cannot be short of your human capital. So you need to constantly, like Davis was mentioning, you need to constantly have career planning, succession planning in readiness. How can you have them in readiness? Only when you know that, hey, what are the competencies required for these roles? How many roles do I need? How many people do I have with those required competencies? Now, if can I create a talent pipeline? Got it, guys? We will talk about the human capital readiness in one of our sessions. No worry. Okay, any questions here? L&D. Today, competency framework is used majorly in talent development. And why do you think there's so much of focus on this L&D talent development, especially with respect to competencies? As you know, that the market is so fluid and it's constantly evolving and it's so competitive. So obviously, gone are the days when you could actually depend on your machinery, your capital, etc. Today, human capital is the key. So you need to constantly build competencies within your workforce so that you can actually derive competitive advantage. Got it, guys? So that's the leverage you have to get. Constantly keeping, because then other people can't copy it. That's the strategic advantage you get. Can culture be copied by others? It can't be copied. We can copy anything else. We can copy technology, we can copy machinery, everything. But you cannot copy that advantage which is embedded within the human capital. That gives the edge. So I talked about recruitment, talked about compensation, promotion. Yes, depending on what kind of competencies, right? You can always see the gaps, train them and promote them. Induction, performance management, training and development. So if you have competency frameworks for all your positions, then you can have a same common understanding, whether you are recruiting a person, whether you are doing a promotion, or whether you're doing a performance management, or whether you're doing a training and development. Got it? Any questions here? So that's how you can use your competency framework as a good HR tool, which will be very effective and efficient for organizations. Okay? So typically when we talk about generic competencies, you can see, these are companies like ABB, IBM, KPMG, Motorola. So these are some of those generic competencies. This PPT will also be given to you. So you can have a look at them, how they differentiate from each other to create the competitive advantage and also the differentiation in the market. You are going to map what we call it as the functional competencies. Okay. So when you are going to map functional competencies, so just to give you a little understanding, a scale, we could have a 3-level scale where you can have a beginner, practitioner, and an expert. Now you have the document there. After that, you will be downloading that and seeing. So what I will give you a little understanding, and what you need to do is very, very clear. So it's a group exercise and you would be doing it as a group So in this exercise, just look at it. This is actually preparing you for tomorrow's exercise. How do you look at a task statement? What is a task? Say, for example, anybody, HR business partner. What task? Give me a very simple task. What does a person do? HR business partner.
Exit interview.
Employee
Exit.
connect.
Support.
Okay, absolutely wonderful. So, what does the HRBP person do? Doing interviews. Okay. So, what it is done? Huh? I mean, what are you doing it? You are actually conducting an exit interview. Now, what is the output? You want to know the reasons for leaving, right? What is the outcome, or what is the result of their exit interview? You're trying to find out why is the person leaving, the reasons for exit, all right? So how is the work being done? Are you using any tools? Are you using any techniques? Or is it an interview questionnaire? So therefore, say for example, when I'm talking about a competency in this task statement, when you're doing this exit interview, you should know how to do interviewing, right? Interviewing becomes a competency, which is more of a skill-based competency. Got it? give me another example for anybody else, so that so like here, sort. What is the worker doing? Sorting. Think of a clerk who is sorting. So what does he do? He is actually sorting what? Correspondence and reports. Now, why is he sorting them? Because he is actually wanting to file them, to facilitate filing them. And how does he file them? He has to file them alphabetically. We'll take another one. Okay. So what is this person doing? Evaluating, like Justin said, interviewing, exit interviewing. So the person is doing evaluating. But to whom? I mean, what is he evaluating? So he is actually evaluating what? Master plans, project plans for the organization. We're just taking task statements. And you have one where you have to do this work. Now, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Because he has to make a recommendations whether this is a project to be funded or not. Now, when he has to do this, so how is he going to do? What are the procedures? What is the equipment he's using? He is using certain guidelines based on which he will say, hey, this can be funded, this cannot be funded. So there is some guidelines, right? So he should be aware, knowledge of the guidelines of funding, how to go, skills. There are certain skills required when he has to evaluate. So analytical skills maybe. So this is what it is. This is called, how do you write functional competencies based on task statement. Now I'm going to actually show you what you need to do. Vilma, can you just explain this a little bit? I'm getting some throat problem. Okay. Where is it? Can you just explain this one second? Yeah, what they need to do in the group.
So this entire identification of key competencies starts with identifying one of the role. So we'll be sharing two job descriptions, one for HR operations and the other for HR BP. So you can do on either of them. So first identify the role that starts and which career level it is. Either it could be at the beginner level, practitioner level, or expert level. So based on the two job descriptions that we have given, identify the career level.
Yeah.
Then
Can I just,
job.
Vilma, can I just ask you to pause a minute? Okay. Now, what will be the criteria for identifying beginner, practitioner, expert? You need to go through the JD as a group and find out, hey, these tasks, do they relate to a beginner level or a practitioner level or at an expert level? Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. Vilma. Thank you.
Then you scope out the job and the organizational related information based on the job description, which is already available to you on the chat. So go through that in detail and scope out in points or in brief. Then you start with the writing of the task statement. Each of the activities that you are required to do, the tasks that are required to do, jot it down here in the first column, that what is the task using the action verb. So we have also provided a sample in the exercise sheet. If you look at it, that talks about the verb that you need to use while putting it on the first column, what the worker does. Suppose he is doing training. So you write what in training, what is evaluate or coordinate. So the verb should clearly come out over here in the first column. Then the object of the work. What is the work to be done? For whom? That needs to be cleared. Third is the expected output, the result. What is the purpose of doing this activity and what is the desired output to be performed? And the fourth is the procedure. To perform this task, what are the working aids, tools, technologies you require to accomplish the task? So when you complete all these four columns, the task statements becomes very, very clear and easy to understand by the doer as well as by the user. So it gives a lot of clarity. So that is why this entire exercise is to develop the task statement for each of the activities. Suppose, for example, if you just write doing training coordinator in the job description, it's very vague, you can't understand. But when you use all these four statements, it becomes clear. What is he required to do, how to do, what is the desired output, and etc. So this is the whole exercise about. Then you have to put down the knowledge, skill, ability, and personality attributes. So from the job description and the activities that you have already jotted down in the task, specify the knowledge, the skills, ability, and the attributes. Then club them together under the competency label and summarize the behaviors and the KCPs. So this is
We're
the
going to help you. No worries. So just do one of them. This will give you a rounded picture. Okay.
So we'll have it in two groups. So they can all put together there and do a brainstorming and, complete the task. So A group can do HRBP and B group will do the operations. Yes, they are there.
Okay. Oh, yeah, let's start, please.
Okay, so we were basically given the job description of HR business partner. Okay, and
Wonderful.
after reading, the job description, this is what we have kind of worked out. Our role happens to be a business partner. Going through the job description, the career level of the person is of an expert. We've just listed out 3 tasks over here.
Right.
As per the distribution of action verbs. The first one we've taken is conducts meetings, which are with the business units, basically everybody in the business
Right.
units. Okay.
Right. Excellent.
And why the work is done to help, develop solutions, interventions, or policies which are in line with whatever problems have been identified. And how is the work done? Through interviews, through partnering with the business leaders.
Excellent.
The second one, that challenge or the action area that we picked up was to resolve the issues. While we are doing these interviews, we are connecting with our employees and the people leaders. Okay. And why the work is getting done is to resolve the complex employee relation issues which surface. Okay.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
how are we doing this particular work? Again, through interviews, through investigating the problems which have been cited, and also through having the knowledge of the best practices.
Best practices. Okay. Very good.
Then the third action we've picked up is providing guidance on performance management. Okay.
Okay.
Again, it is to the employees and the people leaders where they are stuck with the performance assessment areas, and how this is going, why this is going to help us to improve productivity. Also will be able to help in retentions and manage the employee engagement well. Because if my employee is not engaged well, the attrition is going to be the outcome. And how are we doing this? Through coaching, counseling, and career development discussions.
Great. Okay.
So these were the 3, points that we picked up. In terms of, identifying the cases, for the knowledge, we felt the person needs to have the domain knowledge of the HR business partnering process. Okay.
Right.
Also need to know the applicable laws for this particular business.
Okay.
So that the solutions are then devised, as per the business requirement. And of course, the organization ka jo business acumen hai, that also needs to be.
Business acumen comes as a competency, Meghna.
Okay.
It's not a knowledge. Business acumen. It's a competence. It's a behavioral competency. Okay. So you can put it under the ability.
Ability is where that should go.
Yeah. Then in knowledge, you can also say knowledge of the present performance management system, right?
Okay.
Because provide guidance on performance management. So you will need to have also knowledge on performance management, no? Resolve issues. Okay. So a knowledge of business also, right? Not only domain knowledge, but knowledge of business is also important, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then we are talking
Skills,
about
communication, interpersonal, customer service, coaching, mentoring, interviewing also. If you are saying interviews, no?
Yeah.
Interviewing. In fact, conduct meetings means he should also have that skill as a meetings. That's a skill, no? Doing meetings. Okay?
So conduct meetings will be a skill.
Absolutely. It is required, no?
Okay. Okay.
Ability should be able to comprehend, interpret laws. Okay, should be able to convince. Okay, should be able to convince. Kya? Convincing skills.
Convincing skills. Okay, reworded. But if we talk about
You want convincing skills or
then it will be into the
influencing skills?
skills.
Huh? Yeah, then it has to go into skill.
Yeah. So when I'm able to convince, am I not able to influence?
See, influencing skills, convincing skills, everything comes under skills. No?
Okay.
Okay.
Just move it
Personal.
over here.
Acha, personal characteristics and attributes. So business acumen can be here.
Personal characteristics. Is it?
Attributes, you can have it here.
Yeah.
Business acumen can come under this because it is a behavioral competency. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good work done. Good work done by the group. I hope everybody actually participated in the group.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then this is group related to form a competency category. Okay. Managing employee relations. Yes, employee relations. Managing what? Employee relations?
Yeah.
Competency label can be employee relations.
Acha, okay. That's where we are basically stuck.
Yeah, that's
We call the
yeah,
label
we
as-
were.
Yeah, this is where this was the most challenging section for us.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Behavioral indicators. Coordinate with the internal stakeholders, should be good at time management, should be good at prioritization, should be able to plan intervention. Then description group should have domain knowledge. Group related KSPs, okay, should be good in communication. Major tasks should be good in communication, should be able to comprehend and interpret, should have strong. Okay, so I leave it this because I have to actually explain levels of proficiency. Okay, so when we are going to do the next session, we have to go back to the drawing board to understand first of all some basics. Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
And we will do this.
Okay.
As Justin said, I was caught up here. I was not able to do it. So we will definitely understand how do we actually then translate or break up tasks into the required behavioral indicators, which indicate levels of proficiency. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Where is the other group? I hope the other group has understood. Guys, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Vilma is going to ask you to do this as a part of the homework or whatever.
They can complete the rest of the tasks.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So good work by the other group. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. And look forward to the next session tomorrow. Okay?
Okay.
Take care. Okay.
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Thank you.